Quitting your high-paying job in your late 30s when you also have a family to sustain to become an entrepreneur perhaps is a thought scary to many. But today, let us meet somebody who had the courage to do exactly that in the year 2008 when he quit his job in Fire Capital Fund as Executive Director Investments of the fund at the age of 38 to become an entrepreneur. Please join me as I welcome Mr. Sanjeeva Shivesh, now an entrepreneur, a former civil servant, a BTech from IIT Delhi, and MBA from Cranfield University, UK, to share his unconventional entrepreneurial journey with us, the risks involved, and how to develop resilience in the face of adversities. Welcome, sir, and thank you for doing this with us. To start with, can you tell us a bit about your background?
Yeah, I grew up in a small place called Bhagalpur, which is in Bihar. That's the first 17 years of my life. Then I came to IIT Delhi. And then I joined civil service, spent 10 years in civil service. Life took turns. I did my MBA in England, worked with management consulting, did a stint in private equity. And while I was doing my MBA, I said, the thought of starting something of my own had seeded there. And I was very clear that what I had to do. So 2009 onwards, I have been an entrepreneur.
Right. So can you describe a particular moment like during your time in your MBA when you realized that you have to take the unconventional route and, chase your entrepreneurial dreams?
So the big change happened on 31st December 2004.
What date,
Right. So 31st December 2004, I was working with Indian Railways, and as a family, we were on a vacation to Lonavala. We're a small family, and I had a great stint with Railways. So me and my wife, we were on 1st Jan, or we were sitting beside the lake, nice sunny day, and we were just thinking where life is going to take us. So the thought which came to my mind was, if I had to retire, it would have been 2030. So the scary thought which came was next 26 years, I had to do the same stuff, right? So I knew what I had to do in railways, and I knew what I had to do for the next 26 years. That thought was really scary, and I thought that something should change because life is much longer. And that lingering thought continued when I took the first important decision to do the MBA, right? So MBA was a decision to smoothly sort of change your career. And while you were taking that decision to do an MBA from abroad, it's some sort of expensive decision. So you really think you're weighing your odds. But the reason to do MBA was to taste corporate world leadership.
Okay.
Right. And I was not I had no idea what entrepreneurship is until in the MBA class. And that was 10 December 2005, when one of the professors came and he brought in one entrepreneur who would be doing some simple, crazy stuff. There was a very simple story. I forget the name of the guy. Right. So he said that he has earphones which he leases out for one day if you have to if you're watching a cricket match at Lord's Cricket Stadium. So if 40,000 people are watching a match at Lord's Cricket Stadium, then this guy, he would lease out those earphones to maybe 5,000 odd people. They'll pay him £10. That makes £50,000 revenue in a day. But I really thought, wow, this is so cool, right? So, it's as simple as that. And when this guy came and I was listening to them, I thought I still was wearing the hat of civil servant or a public policy thinker in those classrooms. And I thought that if India needs something in a real big way, India has to create about 10 million entrepreneurs. So that was the thought which came. And that thought really
resonated with you.
Yeah, resonated. It's remained with me. And the first thing which was there is, after the MBA program, I have to be an entrepreneur.
तभी decide हो गया था.
So the decision was taken then.
Okay.
Right. So that's the short story.
So as you mentioned, by then you had a family. So what made you kind of, it's a scary thought. So because you have a family to sustain and everything. So what made you come into the world of uncertainties of entrepreneurship and leaving a secure job?
It wasn't that difficult, Shivan.
Okay.
You're aware my wife is a professional, corporate
Mm.
professional. So, basically, it would have been tougher decision if only one person is the income earner, and then when you make a decision, then you start thinking how does the home run, right?
Mm.
But if your spouse, then that's the good thing about modern education that all of us have
Yeah.
a working spouse. So that really makes the decision much easier,
Right.
right? So the real talk then was with your better half about whether
We should
this
go
is
ahead.
what we are getting into, and whatever you think at that point of time, it might be all the plans that you make is only half-baked plans, right? So you have zero visibility of how the journey of life is going to turn, but you need some buy-in in the beginning, right? So there is a simple story or vision, an image, a picture that you have to share with someone, and if both of us agree, then it's an easier journey.
So you think if she wasn't working, would you have still gone ahead and done it?
Given the person who I am, right,
You still would have.
I would have, uh, it would have been a different journey. It would have been, it would have had more twists and turns, perhaps, right?
But you still would
But
have tried.
I think so, right?
Right. Nice.
So once the thought comes, and I think this holds true with most people who I meet, right? All of us go through in this life journey multiple thoughts, but some thoughts remain with you. Some thoughts are very powerful that remain with you. And when it remains with you, then you make certain decisions. So that was the story, even with, go back to, I was living in Bhagalpur, right? It's a small town. In mid 80s, hardly the city knew anything for IIT,
Okay.
right? And I studied in government school. And then someone comes up and says that, hey, listen, IIT बड़ी अच्छी चीज़ है, वहाँ जाना चाहिए. जो बिहार इंजीनियरिंग है वो तो आसान है, IIT मुश्किल है, इंडिया का बेस्ट होता है. So that thought comes and stays with you, and then you say, okay, follow it, right? So I think that's how most of us are built. So we get enamored with some thought, and then we want to make it real.
Okay. So now you decided that you will go ahead with entrepreneurship. So MBA was just to take that plunge that let's start with this and then see what happens when you decided in Lonavala sitting there.
See, when I was in Lavla, I must confess that I had not heard the word entrepreneurship. The only word that we had heard was businessman,
Haan.
Marwadi,
Haan.
right? All that. Okay. But this whole concept of entrepreneurship in India, in modern India, was a new concept. And it was not being talked about as much in 2003, 4, 5 as it is now being talked about.
Is it safe to say it was not there only in that time? Maybe only the norm was there, like, just pick up civil services, become a doctor, become an engineer. I don't think entrepreneurship.
I think the big change came around 1999.
Oh.
So when the world of internet came, and I think the big mass entrepreneurship change came, but it was not mass as in mass, right? It was a simple, easy thing. Internet was coming, and people were thinking that can we do something around e-commerce, another internet venture. So Naukri was born,
Right.
right? So a lot of Indian startups got took birth. Make My Trip, and those are the ventures which were set. A lot of them were sort of also failed, right? But 1999 to 2000 was the boom of entrepreneurship globally, and in India also it was a boom of entrepreneurship. It did not percolate to tier 2 or even the whole of tier 1. It was still very elite entrepreneurship. So it would still be some people in IIT, some people in the university, some people who have studied abroad. And that was the nature of 1999 entrepreneurship. And that's why it was not as mass spread as it is now.
Right.
So 2004, as I hardly knew or understood the meaning of entrepreneurship. My moment of awakening came in that session.
So you mentioned about the fact that even in India,
Yeah.
entrepreneurs fail quite fast. They keep trying and they fail, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So is the case with the one you met, that as you're mentioning. So what has been your entrepreneurial journey? Like, have you faced challenges initially, and have you tried like very many startups before you reach the one you're in now?
So I completed my MBA in 2006. I worked with strategy consulting. I did a PE stint. And then in 2009, I was bursting to start, but I only wanted to make my finances a
Have a
little bit
capital.
safe. So in 2009, 18th October, I took this plunge, right? And that was to set up a venture called Smartway. It was with a friend of mine. And uh, we kept on thinking about setting Smartwave for about a year. I was ready about even a year back. But I realized that with a bunch of friends, everyone has to come on board and it takes time.
Don't go so far.
Yeah.
इसकी भी एक story है. आपने जो job छोड़ी है,
Yeah.
what is the story behind that? I think from whatever little research we have, I think what we know is that you went ahead and resigned, whereas you were expecting some more people to follow.
Oh, yes. So this is very interesting. So this
Yeah.
the year is 2008. 2008 was when the big financial crisis happened. You know, Lehman Brothers, they had collapsed, Bear Stearns had collapsed. So the world was in turmoil. We were in financial private equity, and suddenly the funds which were promised, it was on paper, it had all dried up. And I was fortunate to be working with very nice bunch of people. So every day we would go during lunchtime, we would go for a stroll and people would discuss ideas. And that was fantastic time. So we said that on 1st June, right, is the date when all of us, we put in papers to start our own venture. Now on 1st June, when you reach office, we all look at each other, trying to look at each other, and everyone is avoiding faces. So by lunchtime, you realize that this is not going to happen.
सब नहीं करेंगे.
सब नहीं करेंगे, मुश्किल काम है. It's not easy, right? Because if this is sort of a decision that you are asking everyone to take, where families are involved, your friends are there, family, and you know the families, you're going, meeting them socially and everything. So, no one was ready. So around lunchtime, I sort of, we met, and I was just raring to go. I said, no, guys, what's going on? And I realized it's not going to happen. So we said that, okay, we postpone this decision by 6 weeks. So 15 July, if all of us think that we are ready and we want to do this, we'll go ahead. So in between, the families also met socially, and some people are more convinced, some people are not as convinced, etc. And everyone has a life journey. So around 15th July, we again came 6 weeks later. And the same story got repeated. So again on 15th July, 16th
कोई आँख
July,
खिला रहा है.
कोई आँख नहीं मिला रहा है, कोई किसी से बात नहीं कर रहा है. And so on this day, there were 2 of us who were more keen to leave. 4 out of 4, right? So 2 were not keen to leave. So we again said that, listen, this is the last call. 31st August is the last date. Whoever wants to join this party, right? So that's how this journey got played. Right. So on 1st September, we knew who was going to come, but then the story also unfolded in different manners. So I was alone who was starting.
So you're the only one that day who resigned? So coming back to now, we can connect on 18th October, what happened?
Yeah, so we started Smartwave. It was, and the idea of Smartwave was to be education venture. So believe me, the words which stuck with me at Cranfield, where I was doing my MBA, and the kind of education that I really saw 2 things. I was enamored with entrepreneurship. I was also, I got hooked on to this word called innovation, how it happens, how it can be managed. And the last, but the most important, was this whole framework of education. So I studied IT, which is one of the best in India. But when I went to Cranfield, the framework of education and the method of education in the classroom was far different. It was far more equal setting. The distance between professor and student was much less, and the learning was top class. And I thought that if something has to happen, other than entrepreneurship. The building block of everything is at scale is education. So if you can bring a high quality education, things can work. So I was starting with a very low capital, trying to build SmartWave in the area of we had these three keywords: innovation, entrepreneurship, and education. Right.
Okay.
So we really said that do something around this. SmartWave was the goal was to set up a school.
Okay.
The goal was to set up a business, a B school or an entrepreneurship school, but it was not happening, and we were turning into another training company.
Okay.
Right. So we started building it up because and building any venture is very exciting. So the first thing that we launched there was in December, something called a 100-day MBA program. It was a fast track program, which is a lot of things that you do in MBA is not has the same need. So what we did was we said that cut all the fluff part of the MBA and make a very nice, sweet, high impact program. And we started it, right? And we had few takers. It turned out we were able to bring a lot of high profile business leaders into the classroom and let them engage with students. So the distance between CXO and average employee got really bridged in that 100-day MBA program. That's what we started. The first batch was fine. Second batch was not so fine. Third batch was much less because market only accepts certain kind of products, and we were struggling to make it work. So something which got started, it was not taking off, and all your funds that you had saved slowly starts vanishing. And we had to make the ends meet, but we continued and we allowed SmartWave to it got shaped into a very nice L&D or a training company, right? So we started getting orders from corporates, but this 100 MBA stuff or the vision that which we had started was not going on. So in 2 years, we were making reasonable revenue, but not from the core vision because of which you had quit everything.
Right. So how many people were there when you started SmartWave with you?
There were 2 partners, but as team, we were, we reached out to a scale of about 7-8 people.
So you shut down SmartWave because of the vision, this thing.
Yeah.
And then, but you still wanted to be an entrepreneur.
The idea was to build a institution which is focused on entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Right. So we started building. So that was the convergence of thought between friends. And we said that we are not going to build a business school. We are going to build a focused school of entrepreneurship where the end result is going to be a production of an entrepreneur, not a business manager. Right. So can you create a program, pedagogy, tools, everything around it? And by in the my previous 3-4 years had given me enough experience, insight about how to think and structure the whole thing. And that's how we sort of ventured into this business, which was initially called iSeed.
Okay.
And it really captured the imagination of market really well. So much wider connect with the audience in NCR. A lot of people came, they liked us, big guys liked us. They all were meeting with us. And they said that, iSeed was something which was coming up, right? So that was a focused school of entrepreneurship where there's no promise of job, where the only promise is that in a year's time, we'll get your venture ready.
Okay.
Right?
So a launchpad.
A launchpad. So this was very unique. Nothing of this sort ever existed in India, or I also think globally to a scale of success. Right? So we're just trying to build something very new, an innovative system of education, and that was like those were exciting days.
So many challenges that you faced. So did it ever make you think about going back to doing your secure job?
Not at all, because every day I think life was very exciting. I'll tell you the big challenge. Most of these years, there have been months where I have not drawn any amount of any single penny from this. Okay, so and for most people, that could be a turning point when they say, "Oh, give it up, ho gaya, ab wapas jao, make some money, etc., etc." I think that thought never came to me. Although the market would always keep on reaching out to you that this is the offer. Why don't you go to South Africa? We're offering you a CXO position, etc., etc. So all those things never it never occurred to my mind that okay, follow this.
Okay, right. So now after this, what was your next venture? Because your vision was pretty much clear even till then, that
Yeah,
in the core believe entrepreneurship can be taught.
yeah.
Right. It's not something which is a skill set which is an inherent in you or something like that, because many business families also delve into it because it's inherent in them. But you think it can be taught, anybody can become an entrepreneur if it's taught.
Yeah.
So with that vision, did you also try something else to take it forward?
So iSeed, the story of iSeed is interesting. So we started as a bunch of 10 friends, and in about 3 months, dispute between friends arose. So it got the project was almost coming to an end, but 8 people came and they resuscitated the project, and it became the Entrepreneurship School. Now, the Entrepreneurship School got launched sometime in 2014, and 2013, November 2013, and we had the first batch of students join in the summer of 2014. And if the project is good, market keeps on liking it. So a lot of people would keep coming, and we sort of in May, June, we had the first batch of tests running. And there was no Startup India program or etc. anything, but the wave of entrepreneurship was catching on. So Flipkart was there, Paytm had just launched, Oyo had just or was in the process of launch. The previous version of Oyo was there, and I had a mini stint called Resto Stay, which was like a competitor to Oyo, which we worked on for 6 months, right? So all those things. So India was trying to now slowly this whole entrepreneurship ecosystem was now, or at least the buzz was now building up. The real challenge in any entrepreneurship journey is that while you are trying to run all these experiments, your personal cash will keep on depleting if you're not well funded, right? So a time came when we ran out of all money. The idea was, I still believe it's a great idea. Someone else is now trying to do similar stuff. The good thing is that in this journey, where we, from 2014 to 2019 or 20, we got broke sometime in 2050, in a year's time.
Absolute zero.
Absolute zero. Not absolute zero, we're negative. We're negative 5 crores.
With tests?
With tests.
Okay.
So we're negative 5 crores, and we still had to manage the business. And we had a lot of people, a lot of outstanding, they will keep on shouting at us and all that, and we had to navigate those situations. And bravely, we were fighting all those, putting a nice face in front of all our audiences. And people who were really keen to build a venture, they would keep coming to us. So about 300, 350 odd people, they came, they got mentored, they got, in different manners, we sort of helped entrepreneurs build their startups or crazy ideas. So that journey was there. Funding was always a challenge. How to make ourselves remain funded, and that's the short story of the Entrepreneurship School that I and Masroor Lodi were running.
So multiple challenges through.
It will be, right? So there would be many challenges in the journey. The best thing about entrepreneurship is that you cannot predict what challenge is going to come tomorrow or today or next moment. And you have to be ready to fight out that challenge anytime, right? So it's an unforeseen journey. Now, two things about entrepreneurship, I just want to say. There are two types of entrepreneurship. One is call it a routine business.
Right.
And the other is a novel business. The degree of challenges in routine business will be much less as compared to a novel business. So, an entrepreneur program which competes with with a very well-established MBA, it had its novelty. If I was sitting on a B school, it would have been a cakewalk for us.
Right. Yeah.
But we said, no, we are not doing that. We said that we took a bolder vision, and we said that we are going to say that India needs 10 million entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And we are one of the avenues through which India can create, if everything had gone down, we would have created maybe 5,000 more entrepreneurs or 10,000 by now. Now, and we had a modeling formula in place, right? It had its novelty, right? And on the other hand, there are millions of these schools which were every day putting their ads on newspapers, Ajao, do your MBA and everything.
Yeah.
So with you're fighting someone with millions of budget, with a very few, lakhs of rupees of budget to still attract people, and you're still able to attract.
Oh, right. Great. So with so many challenges along the way that you had, what is that one quality in you that you think has always kept you going?
That's a hard, one. I think there's something called belief, right? So there could be many aspects to it, right? So, but believing in the vision, believing in the cause, right? And that really sort of
Has kept you going.
Has kept me going. In the back, you also know that you have sufficient at family level financial comfort such that life does not get disturbed as much. But to pursue your dream, I think the belief. Yeah.
Right. So on the journey along the way, were there any kind of skills or knowledge that you had to develop along the way to learn?
A lot. So the real thing, what I realized that we do a lot of learning from books, right? And I would have read thousands by now, more than thousands. And we tend to believe that you know it. But the real challenge is it never reflects in your behavior. So in life, whatever I know, if it is not reflecting my behavior, that knowledge is just a knowledge. It's not put to any use. So a lot of stuff which I would have cracked in exams and all the things, when you are putting it to test in real life, you realize that some things work, a lot of things do not work, and behaviorally you have to change. Right? So the biggest learning for me in entrepreneurship is every time it tests my own personal behavior, my readiness, right? And very often I realize, okay, I don't know this, I'm not ready for this. And then I have to get myself into learning mode. So I have gone through, we call it multiple learning cycles of many things.
Okay.
Right. So to put an example in a simpler way, look, I worked for Indian Railways and I had a large team at disposal. And you don't care, right? So you had a budget, and in that budget you had a large team at disposal, and you tend to think that you can manage a large team, right? In entrepreneurship, I have a very small team, and I still struggle to make this team work.
Really? Even now?
Even now, right? And the challenge is because when you have a large team, if someone doesn't do work, you depend on someone else. So there's a lot of what you call extra bulge out there from where you can discover new, your routes to getting things done. When the team is small, when there's no bulge, then finding ways to make it work is far more challenging, right? And I'm still struggling with that. And trying to make things work.
Do you struggle with the delegation part also, or you feel like you can do it yourself?
So that's the other thing, right? So the other challenge in entrepreneurship is also this whole concept that society paints, and everyone wants everyone to paint, is entrepreneur as a hero, right? And India loves heroes. We like Amitabh Bachchan's and Virat Kohli's and everyone, right? But entrepreneurship essentially is a team sport. And increasingly, I realize only those guys who are great at team sport, they have succeeded. If you are going to play a very individual sport, chance of success is very, very low, right? And I also went through this, or still I'm going through this learning cycle between how much to delegate, right?
How much to do yourself?
How much to be yourself. The more you delegate, I think it's better uh, for your entrepreneurial success.
So, with such a long journey that you've had, we'd like to know what is your current startup doing? Like, what are you doing currently?
It's
What's
the same stuff, Shivangi. So whatever we were doing for college audience as an alternate to MBA, we said that okay, it's not working in that manner. Can we tweak it? And we sort of dumbed down the entire program, and we have rolled it out in schools.
Okay.
But the impact is far higher. So now I run a startup which is called thinkstartup, and thinkstartup runs entrepreneurship program in schools, right? And we also run India's largest entrepreneurship competition for school students. So last year we had 1.5 lakh school students participate. So and there a lot of schools, lot of young students, they really know us. They really love what we are doing. And what we have really done is simplified the knowledge of entrepreneurship and embedded it into the school curriculum. So not all schools have rolled out curriculum. It's optional. It's a paid program. But we are finding great, liking for the program. We are doing nice work out there. And we believe that this time it will scale up far more than any of the other experiments.
So, what is the vision for this for Think Startup?
So Think Startup really says that we want to be in, again, the vision has not changed. The market has changed.
Okay.
So I said product market fit, the vision still remains that can you prepare young minds to become entrepreneurs? So we said that, listen, 10 million is 1 crore. So can we touch 1 crore people in India who we can touch with the message, not just the message, with a nice education model of entrepreneurship. Right. So 1 crore is a sufficiently large number. I think we have so far touched the hearts and minds of about 2 lakh people, 2 lakh youngsters.
It's really not bad.
Right. So now this is a complete long shot. So whoever minds and hearts we are touching right now, they will come into the economic market by 2030, 2032, 2033, 2035. But all the guys and girls who we have touched, they'll be far braver than whoever we know. They'll be more tuned into innovation. They'll be more happy to take risks, take challenges, unafraid, trying to do new things. And that's what is the core vision.
Sure. So, you're doing it in schools right now.
Yeah.
We'll ask you something very, which is a really, which is a norm, basically, that I've seen. So, in school, right, students are very well, guided by your parents.
Yeah.
So, now they know that this is a program that's happening in schools and everything else. You think it'll make an impact on the mindsets of the parents where they let their kids get into entrepreneurship, where some parents are still into the vibe of, ठीक है अभी कर लो, get into college, and then they expect their kids to still get into the secure job for whatever reasons. Do you think this thing will have an impact on their mind?
I really a great question, Shivangi. So I really think again you have to really look at this whole spectrum of parents. There could be very few parents who would be ready to say that, okay, I want my kids, school going teenagers, to be learning entrepreneurship from things. The large 98% is still in this whole thing. So forget 50%, which will, it's very hard to go there. The real challenge with middle class parents today is they are still stuck in the 1990 paradigm. And 1990s paradigm was when they were growing up, they all grew up with this mantra called padho, padho, padho. Right? Marks. That's the only route to success. they have all moved into worksphere and they have realized that none of these matter. They realize that pado does not matter. They realize marks does not matter. Yet they have not been able to get rid of that syndrome for their children. Right. So I meet school teachers, principals, etc., who are trying to bring things. Often we think that teachers are, dumb and they are not able to bring new thought in the school. I think the real challenge today is with the parents. And parents are stuck too much in the past when they were growing up, and all the markers of success that they had when they were growing up, those markers of success, they have seen in their life it doesn't work, but they're finding it a real challenge to shrug it off. It's time to really say, okay, Tata, bye-bye. We don't want these markers. We want newer markers of success. Right? So when I go to schools, I meet parents. This is the kind of dialogue we have. We face tough questions. They have reasonable questions and that needs to be answered. But success comes in life only from failures. You have to fail many times to become super successful. That's the only mantra. No one has become successful without any failure or with one failure or two failures. You have to fail 100 times.
So, you think you'd advise those students also to take up entrepreneurship where, some parents come up with this reasonable question also where they think that they're not very financially stable, where they'd like their kids to do something and kind of give money maybe in the house. So, and entrepreneurship takes time. You feel like more than you succeed, right? We know the odds. Do you think you'd still advise those families and parents that let your child get into entrepreneurship?
I really think that you have to see life from multiple perspectives. So in anything that you do, success takes time. Even if you are following a corporate path, no one becomes CEO at the age of 35. Right? You will still become CEO only at the age of 45, 50, 55, etc. So it's a long journey to super success, if CEO is the marker of success. What's the reality? The reality is that we are moving into a world where technology comes and shakes up everything.
Yeah.
So for example, take ChatGPT. And ChatGPT comes and shakes up everything. All this content creation and everything is changing. A lot of jobs will change. A lot of people who are pursuing these jobs, they will face a challenge. As opposed to all this, if let's say your child has gone through a program which has built entrepreneurial mindset. So what it does is it's preparing the child to think that come what may, things will change. I can still navigate uncertainty. I can, if Modi says that pakoda wala or chai wala business and all that, if chai is not working, I'll sell pakodas. If pakodas is not working, I'll sell chola bhatura. If chola bhatura is not working, I'll sell my coffee. And there are multiple options in life, right? But that mindset is important. That if something doesn't work, I move on to something else, right? Now, there's a lot of myth surrounding this whole thing called money, right? So there are whole spectrum of entrepreneurship. So for example, again, ChatGPT, Sam Altman says that to build ChatGPT, he needs $100 billion. There'll be only one such business which will require $100 billion funding. There could be 100 businesses which will require $1 billion funding. So one at 100 billion, 100 at 1 billion, there could be million businesses which will require $1 million funding, and there could be a billion business which will require only 10,000 rupees funding. We have piloted lots of interesting projects with school students where we give them 500 rupees to build a business and they're able to build. These are, mind you, class 6 student, class 7 student, class 8 student, and they're able to build such businesses. And basically, all the apprehensions that we have about entrepreneurship is, in my mind, it's all our own old imagination, and we have to be really imaginative about it to make it work.
I have to break free from those.
You have to really break free and say that, okay, we have to do this, and then you'll start finding your answers. It's about discovery.
Right. So when people start their own business, when they become entrepreneurs, so they have one vision, right? And while they build that, do you also encourage that they can attach something else that will give them funding faster? into that business to kind of take it forward, like sort of get the funds from there and put it in the vision that they have?
So there are again multiple ways in which people build businesses. Now, prima facie, I come from a school of thought that build business as much as possible without any funding, right? Which is completely different from the current model, which is being pushed, where everyone says that okay, I want to do startup provided I have this funding.
पर शरीर से बिना फंडिंग के कैसे पॉसिबल हो?
Exactly, right. So a lot of people uh, want to build startup only when there's funding available.
Yeah.
And what we are seeing is these guys and girls, they are taking funding, they're burning money and not building startups. So you have a lot of loss-making startups, big, phenomenal loss-making startup. As opposed to this, there are number of ventures which are getting built under the radar. They're not as newsy as someone who is able to raise $10 million, because that becomes a news, and still trying to build a business which has a revenue of $10 million with some profit. Okay? It takes time. It's like you cannot become CEO at the age of 35. You cannot become CEO at the age of 40, right? Very few people will become CEO, right? But as you reach 50s, chances of your becoming a CEO or CXO becomes higher and higher. Same is also a startup journey. But these journeys, accumulated learning by the time you have spent about 15, 20 years I think is far higher, far more enriching than a job.
Right. So anybody who takes up entrepreneurship, what do you think are the risks that they should be prepared for always?
So any entrepreneurial journey will have hazard risks, right? So when I say hazard, it could be how much money you have saved before you have gone into venture, right? Those are singular risks. Who's your partner? Because a lot of ventures fail just because partners are not able to make it work, right? And I shared with my own story, right? Is there a need for your product? Now, that's a harder question, because sometimes we also realize that market is not able to see. So you can ask me, is there a need for entrepreneurship education? And we are only trying to create a new category of education, which is not existing, right? So you have to go by a belief, right? And that's a risky belief, because that adds more risk to it. So then it becomes, if you fail, then whether you will fail by 5 crores, 10 crores, 20 crores, 100 crores, that's a kind of a risk that you are taking. So understanding of what you are getting into, if you can play as much as possible, I think that's the preparation which is required. Risks will be there. More important than risk, it is your ability to navigate risk, manage the risk, get over, get past, find a way out. That matters more. You cannot make it a risk-free journey. But when risk comes, when it rains heavily, how you're going to protect yourself?
That you should be.
Yeah.
Right. So, so today,
and you might not still have any umbrella or a shed or anything, but still you need to figure out, is there a tree under which I can go and protect myself for the night being?
And how do you advise someone to build that resilience in them? It's important to have like resilience in this journey, right? So how do you advise someone builds that in them?
I think, Shivagi, again, it's a great question. And I think this answer to this ties down to what happens when we are young, when we are kids, when we are teenagers, right? And I think there are two or three forces at play. Number one, what's going on inside the family? Because a lot of resilience gets built up from the dialogues that parents have with the children, right? So I find overprotective parents, and I find parents who just allow. So you'll find kids who will fall and then learn to get up. And you'll find kids who have fallen and they're just like that because they're waiting for their moms or dads to come and pick them. Right? So, simpler with them. Second is what's going on in schools. Right? Where we are promoting this super marks culture, unwilling to fail, someone, resilience comes from failures. It comes from folly. Let everyone fall and guide them to get up
On the
and run or walk. But if you don't allow anyone to fall and say, इस क्लास में सारे बच्चे अच्छे हैं और सब गलत कर रहे हैं, सबने अच्छा कर लिया, all that, right? So there's a new, so you have to show the reality, because reality, the mismatch between where you are and reality is folly. And then build that muscle where people can feel safe to get up and start moving up.
You think
That's what
that kind of a childhood?
I had largely a free child. I was lucky, right? So largely a very free childhood, lot of open spaces and everything. Lots of books. I built resilience from great stories and books and everything. Yeah, and then this saying that this is what I'm going to do. Because if you have declared to the universe that this is what you're going to do, then you say, "Kar lo yaar."
Right. So, coming to funding. So, you said prima facie, you don't believe in funding. You're like, you should start from scratch, right? So, how do you, in the current scenario, how do you navigate through the funding landscape? Like, what would you advise to the entrepreneurs today who are seeking investments?
Okay, so let me correct there. I think some ventures or ideas will require funding, but many does not. Most, right? So some ideas will require funding, and it's great to go and ask funding and raise funds for that. Otherwise, the ideas will never take off.
Right.
Every idea will require a critical mass of funds, which is needed. And that's the challenge. The whole thing is, how much is that critical mass? It requires a lot of thinking before you sort of go and raise that money. So let's say I'm at stage 0 of I'm at idea stage. Should I raise $1 million or should I raise $10,000? Okay, $10,000 might suffice. Then I go and make something happen, make some prototype or make some raw products or go to some early customers. And then I say, okay, ye chal raha hai. Now to make it work, I need $100,000, not $1 million. In the long run, I might need $1 million, right? So asking right amount of capital is a critical decision that every entrepreneur needs to make. When we sort of propagate this whole thinking that build a startup without asking for funds, essentially we are forcing everyone to be saying, how can I make my ideas work without money? And I think for many ideas, those paths are away. Every time when we say that, can we build this up with zero capital? Not even 100 rupees, not even 1,000 rupees. So only you have to put in your sweat, right? And some light tools, so some digital tools, etc. is required, right? Requires more thinking, more imagination, and that sort of opens up newer doors. This is what we really want people to pursue.
It's a great thought. And with that, we'll come to something very interesting.
Yeah.
You've had offices, you've had team of people working under you.
Yeah.
What is the kind of work culture you promote in your office?
I'm an inherent believer of work hard, play hard, right? So I follow a very solid discipline to my personal discipline to work, and I put in a lot of hours personally, right? But I don't expect everyone to be putting as much hours because not everyone is me. Okay. More importantly, I think at a team level, I want everyone to feel very safe, comfortable, happy in whatever people are doing, right? Respect. So, right. I also want to say that I ideally would like to build more capability in people. I only realize that I'm not as great or patient coach who has built as much capability.
Right. So you believe in a most like flexible work environment than a stringent one?
No, flexibility is the only way. That's the only norm. This is in this world, no one can live without flexibility. You can't have anything stringent.
So you don't really believe in the whole concept of people having very stringent work environments and office आके ही काम करना है, इतना करना है, इतने घंटे देने ही देने हैं.
So I think flexibility is the norm, right? So what happens? So there are certain work which requires everyone to be there. There are certain work which can be done independent. Right? Inherently, there are two types of works. There could be some works which could be in between, and that bit of judgment people should exercise. Right? So even if I work at office and all my colleagues are working in office, there are days when we might not have interacted with everyone. You would have been, right? So if people feel I can work from home today, that's okay, right? Sometimes I think for the purpose of bonding, it requires people to be present. So not necessarily work. And what bonding does is it really fuels up the work environment in a manner that bigger work can happen.
Right.
So that's why workplace meetings, more face-to-face working, it has a value.
So you think maybe because of studying in London, because you were working in the railways every day, going to office, and that's the kind of norm that you've been a part of.
Yeah.
So you think like going to London and studying up like abroad, and also maybe traveling a little, made your concept of working a lot more European and Western like than what it is in India. It was not as promoted, right?
Of course. So government is very regimented, right? So government doesn't say that come to office, work, make 5 to 5 crore now. What happened while I was in the UK? I worked for strategy consulting. Now, the kind of people who are there, they are far more driven. And this full responsibility work from home can work from driven people, right? Who are taking more ownership of work and all that, right? So then it's far more possible. But in life, not everyone is as driven as that cohort who works at McKinsey's and those kind of things, right? So sometimes it's also important to be, so different works, places will require different sort of a discipline or different rule. Intrinsically, I am more flexible.
Right. That's the approach you sell.
Yeah.
So when you have people in your company, right, and you hire them, now you have a particular vision. You have it, like perhaps your co-founder has it, and you both, like more than the other people, are more in sync.
Yeah.
Right? More than the people who you've hired. They are there to help you and take you through that like vision. So when they make mistakes and they falter, how do you keep calm in those scenarios? Because now one mistake or other kind of things kind of also, somewhere can put a setback to your own vision where you're so like driven to sell it. And, how do you keep calm?
Mistakes again have different nature, right? Not all mistakes are of the same quantifiable level, right? So some mistakes could be, mistakes will always happen. That's the rule number one for me is mistakes will always happen. I do 100 times. And when someone else in the team does, I also think that if I can do, then they can also do, right? Now, the real challenge between a boss and employee relationship happens when some mistake has a large monetary implication or impact, right? So impact in the sense that relationship impact, someone is sort of cursing you, right? Your customers are cursing you and all that. So for example, in a recent scenario, one of the part-time employees as a teacher, when he had to go to a school, he went there with his girlfriend. Now that creates an impact, right? Because the school principal then calls me up, right? So that's a mistake, right? Now all mistakes will have different natures.
How do you keep calm in these kind of scenarios?
You have to really think that it's human. Could you have done? And how much of the mistake can you manage after mistake has happened?
Sure.
If it is manageable, then it's worked out in your favor. If it's not manageable, then some bit of things pass on to employees.
So when you hire people in your company, what are the qualities that you look for when you hire them?
That's a hard question, Shivangi, but I really think that I really want to hire people who are self-driven. That's extremely hard. Okay. Uh, if someone of that nature comes, you're able to sense. It takes time, right? Because interview and interactions are much smaller for you to make a judgment. Okay. The other things which I really look at is this whole sense of discipline, ownership to what you say. Because if that sense of discipline goes down or ownership goes down, then it sort of uh, disrupts the flow of work. Right? So a disruption to flow of work for me essentially means that slowly take away that piece of work and get it done by someone else or khud kar lo. Khud kar lo is the last option, right? But initially, I can still do khud kar lo because for the customer, that work would be sensitive. If your employee has not performed, we still have to serve the customer. So someone has to do it. If no one else is doing, then khud kar lo. But the solution is to find someone else who would be responsive to the customer.
Sure. So, sir, along this journey, what has been one of your most rewarding experiences?
There are many, right? Often people think of reward in terms of money, which I haven't got as much. But what has happened is I have built phenomenal social equity. So social equity means the kind of people who you know, the kind of people who are willing to help you, right? The number of such people, I have phenomenal social equity, right? The other thing is the respect in the eyes of your stakeholders. So whether it's your own team, your co-founder, your customers, the students who we engage with, their parents, principals. So that whole ecosystem, if there are other enablers in the ecosystem, right? So intrinsically, we have been able to build a lot of respect. And the third, which I really think matters more now for the work that we are doing, is role modeling, right? So out of 1.5 lakh people, if I really, or 2 lakh people, I've really interacted with, let's say, 50,000, and out of those 50,000, even if 10,000 who I think they like us, they are our fans. So in some manner, something is passing on,
Yeah.
right? So that's
Self-satisfaction.
the thing that I have gained.
So, as I told my viewers also in the introduction, that Sir left his job at the age of 38. So, that brings me to the attached question to this, that given a chance, when you think back in retrospect, would you have started your entrepreneurial journey maybe sooner than that? And what version, and if yes, like what advice would you give to that version of yourself?
So I'll tell you a few things. What you do in your life, which you really did not think was entrepreneurial, but was really entrepreneurial. So, for example, while we were in class 7th or 8th, and we were two brothers studying together, right? We set up this thing called Interact Club in school, which was like Rotary's Bachcha's Bachcha, the school
वो
version.
आगे भी चला है.
Right. So Interact Club we set up in school, in Zilla School Bhagalpur. And now someone says that, okay, Interact Club शुरू करना तो आसान है, और उसको self-financing mode में रहना है. So the first thing which we did was organized a video film show, gated, ticketed, right? And by just doing that in early 1980s, 1982, 83, we generated 1,000 rupees. That was a big sum. 1,000 rupees of 82 could be about 5 lakh rupees now, right? In a day. Okay. And when I look back, I really thought that was entrepreneurial. Okay. We were making the club run on our own without going to anyone, doing all nice sort of work. So the seeds would be sown in number of other stories of your earlier version, earlier stories of your life, which you later on sort of think and discover. Now, why did that not flourish into entrepreneurship? That's the question that I keep asking myself. right? Uh, the real thing is that no one ever told us that this is the path to be taken,
Core problem.
right? So that's the society, the parent, right? Everyone wanted safer options. My parent was professor, was network, someone is in civil service, someone is bank. So everyone is in the service
मुझे
class.
में जाना है वो जो पहले
Yeah, so first thing is marks लाओ, अच्छा करो. वही एक रास्ता है जिंदगी को सुधारने का. नौकरी मिलती नहीं. Early 80s people were crying about jobs, what's India doing, it's a गरीबी हटाओ, that was the slogan and all that. So when you're growing up in that setup, no one said that, hey, you're doing something interesting. My dad never said that, okay, in one day, boys, you can make 1,000 rupees. His salary then was 700 rupees a month. Look at the dichotomy, right? So no one is able to relate these two things, was able to, and then inspire you into action. Okay, so I think if I have to relive, I would really want to bridge this gap and say that get into entrepreneurial journey as soon as possible. You can be all inventors, you can be new thing creators, you can be new business owners, all those are possible, but get into it fast because you are doing value creation for society.
Right. Great. So I think this has been extremely insightful. And people will love watching this for the secrets of entrepreneurship. But before we let you go, we'll have a quick rapid round of top 3 questions that I will ask you. Okay. So my first question to you will be 3 lessons that you have learned in your entrepreneurial journey.
I think stick to your vision. That's my biggest lesson. Never, so that's same as never give up. Work hard, right? And listen to your customers.
And my next question is 3 sectors where you think entrepreneurship will boom in the coming years.
Oh, that's phenomenal, right? So this whole AI is changing the world. So anything around digital and AI is a big opportunity. Medicine medicine biotechnology is another big area, and third is call it a simple, low-hanging entrepreneurship, trade, food, etc., etc. That's always a golden sector.
Great. And finally, in my top 3, my last question is that 3 qualities that you think will keep an entrepreneur relevant in changing times.
Learnability. So it's a journey of ups and downs, and you have to keep learning. That's number 1. A smart salesman. So when I say salesman, not only to customer, selling ideas to everyone, to your investors, stakeholders, everything. 2 qualities. Third is being resilient. Failure will come, but you have to stand up.
Awesome. So, sir, we'd like you to advise our aspiring entrepreneurs something who are finding it difficult to quit their current job and want to become entrepreneurs.
You know, there are a few things which stop people from quitting job, and these things could be around this whole thing called nice life, safe, the EMI culture, etc., etc., right? So these are traps, and they will keep you sort of bonded to, because you know you will have EMI for item A, item B, item C, etc. And then you're asking yourself, okay, my next month when I leave job, then I still have to service this EMI. How do I service, right? So that's the biggest trap. If you have to really quit your job and get into entrepreneurship, get rid of these EMIs. That's the first thing. Second is sell first, make later. Okay. So the success of entrepreneurship is all about selling, right? So find customers and then go back to your kitchen and try and make stuff as fast as possible and serve them. Right. So that's the second secret. Third is hard to come. So two is
enough.
Yeah.
And one finally piece of advice to the parents who should support the budding entrepreneurs in any industry if they don't want to follow the norm and take the unconventional route.
So parents should not interfere, number 1, with anything called children. Right. So this is what No, parents, I firmly believe parents should stop interfering whenever their child becomes 18. It's let their children We are no more children at 18, right? So let them decide the paths that they want to take. I, as a parent, my job is only to be a guide, a helping hand, a sounding board kind of stuff. And whenever child needs to support in any manner, that's it. But your child has to take their decisions on their own and find their own path.
Great. Great, sir. Absolute pleasure to talk to you about the secrets of entrepreneurship. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Thank you. Love it, Shivangi.
Thank you. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week on the next episode of Dear Unconventional. Stay tuned and keep watching.